A very good afternoon to everyone. I hope you've attended the previous sessions and also had the opportunity to visit the exhibition. For those who've just joined in, my name is Nisha Nair. I work as the Associate Director at VK Powermaster. Now, without further ado, let me take you straight away to the esteemed panelists that we have here. So today's session, the panel discussion is going to be on the success stories of entrepreneurs who availed Government of India incentives for cold chain projects. Our moderator for the day is going to be Mr. Harshal Surange. He is the director and CEO of ACR Project Consultants Private Limited. He has more than 20 years in the industry. He's empaneled with World Food Logistics Organization and Asian Development Bank as the cold chain expert and works with them on cold chain and related projects globally. He has recently been appointed as the ASHRAE USA Refrigeration Committee, also known as the Refrigeration Technology for Comfort Process and Cold Chain Committee, for a term of 3 years. He has also recently been appointed as the co-chair of Refrigeration Committee for RAL for ASHRAE for Asia, Gulf, and other regions. To name a few of his achievements, he has received the Braille Award for Excellence in System Design, the Best Green Cold Chain Solution Award. He's received the Certificate of Honor by the Global Cold Chain Alliance, and the RefCold Emerson Award for Most Innovative Refrigeration Design for Food Processing sector. He needs no further introduction, and welcome to the panel, sir. Our next panelist for the day is Mr. Hitin Suri. He is the joint MD of Suri Agrofresh Private Limited. He's a result-oriented managing director driven to manage costs and establish strategic mutually beneficial partnerships and relationships with farmers, suppliers, vendors, customers, service providers, and receivers. He's currently also the Senior Vice President of All India Cold Storage Association. We welcome you to this panel, sir. Our next panelist for the day is Mr. Yashwant Bhojwani. He's a chartered accountant with a BCom. He specializes in delivering financial advisory, project finance consultancy. He's a practicing chartered accountant and advisor for food processing industries to avail finances and government grants. He has worked closely with the Ministry for Food Processing of India for the cold chain projects, food park projects, individual food processing projects. He has also worked with the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises for Cluster Development Program. We're very honored to have you with us today. Thank you, sir. And our final panelist for the day is Mr. Nitin Puri. He is the Global President and Global Head of the Food and Agri-Business Strategic Advisory and Research at Yes Bank. He has completed his mechanical engineering from NIT Kurukshetra, followed by an MBA in Agri-Business Management from Institute of Rural Management, Anand. And he has an advanced management program in agribusiness from Cornell University. Prior to Yes Bank, he has worked in senior management positions in the food and agri sector with ITC, Aditya Birla, MCX, and Reliance Retail. We're very honored to have you with us today. And before I hand over the session to our moderator, Mr. Harshal, may I quickly just remind all our participants that there will be a link in the chat box which will guide you to the question and answers. I request you to please join us towards the end of the session on that platform. May I now hand it over to Mr. Harshal Surange to take it forward.
Thank you. Thank you for the introductions. I'm happy and I welcome you all for this session. This is hopefully going to be a very interesting session, and we look forward to a lot of question and answers also at the end. See, the main point of this session is basically to give people the confidence that yes, government incentives have been availed of, and they have been used by people. So we actually have Mr. Suri with us, who is an actual beneficiary, and he will tell us about his experiences. The way we are going to be going about this is we will first look at some of the schemes which are already there and some schemes which may be expected. Then we will talk a little bit on the financing portion, after which we will then move to the experiences from the actual beneficiary. Before we go on to the panel, let me give a little background to this whole story. So we are talking of cold chain in principle, and cold chain is amongst the most heavy, or I would say the most talked about industry in the recent few months, especially post the COVID lockdowns. This has been one of the industry which has been consistently moving. It has been part of the essentials, and there's a lot of interest being generated from the people in general for this industry. And as we all know, cold chain per se means the passage of the product from the point that it is harvested, from the point that it reaches the consumer. in proverbial terms, it's called as the passage of food from farm to fork in a refrigeration assisted manner. So every product has its own sweet spot. Every product will have its own correct temperature, correct humidity at which it is supposed to stay. And if it stays at that temperature, it gives the longest shelf life that is possible. One important thing that we must remember when we are looking at cold chain and cold chain projects, since I'm expecting that a lot of upcoming entrepreneurs are going to be listening to this session, is that a cold chain project should necessarily be looked upon by its life cycle cost and not its initial cost. When we spend a certain amount of money, which could be in multiples of crores, we are spending that. It's hard-earned money. It's a lot of effort that has gone into creating that kind of money. But at the same time, we must remember that this initial investment that we are making is actually a very minuscule percentage of the total cost that we spend in the next 15 years, 20 years, 25 years that we are going to run this plant. And the major cost in the life cycle cost of a cold chain project is its life cycle cost. So it's important that any project is very well designed and very well executed to make sure that the life cycle cost is the lowest. This was one main point that I wanted to put up to all the listeners as a start point. Let me move to our first panelist of today, who is Mr. Yashwant. You've already seen his introduction. He's a good friend and has done a lot of work in helping people get subsidy from be it the Ministry of Food Processing or be it National Horticulture Board or whatever other sources are there for subsidy. Yashwant has been quite instrumental in helping people get subsidies. I'm going to ask him to first give us a little introduction on the existing schemes and what kind of schemes are expected in the coming months. So Yashwant, over to you. Please.
Thank you, Harshal sir. To start with, basically a cold chain project, when we talk about cold chain project, so there are two governments, central government and state governments, who provide these subsidies and grants for these kinds of projects. So coming to this central government, there are two basic ministries which provide subsidies for a cold chain project. One is Ministry of Food Processing and another one is Ministry of Agriculture. Under Ministry of Food Processing, we have a Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, which is a flagship program under which we have 5-6 different schemes. One amongst them is Integrated Cold Chain Scheme. So just to give you brief idea about what the scheme is and how it is operated, I'll share my PPT where you can get an idea. So to start with, there are two ministries. One is Ministry of Food Processing and another one is Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture through National Horticulture Board and SFAC provides subsidies to the cold chain projects. To highlight this, Ministry of Food Processing is providing subsidy, which is capital grant, and it is upfront. Like when you are completing your project, as and when the project is progressing, you are able to receive that fund. Whereas in subsidy which is received from National Horticulture Board, it is a credit link back-ended subsidy. That means you need to first complete your project with your own funds and then you are receiving the subsidy from the government. So the first scheme is from Ministry of Food Processing, Integrated Cold Chain under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana. The objective of the scheme is to create a infrastructure, cold chain infrastructure, right from the farm level to the fork level, market level. So along with some food processing and value addition facilities, if you are proposing a cold storages or reefer vents, this scheme is eligible. You are eligible under this scheme. The maximum assistance you can get under this scheme is 10 crores. And the basic eligibility criteria to get subsidy under this scheme is that you should have a net worth of at least 1.5 times the grant. Say, for example, if you are claiming a grant of 10 crores, you should have a net worth of at least 15 crores to be eligible under this scheme. Other point to be noted over here is the eligible sectors are only horticulture and non-horticulture agri-produce. So broadly talking, it is fruits and vegetables, dairy, meat and poultry processing are the only commodities which are eligible under this scheme. Here, one more thing is to be noted that a project is scrutinized on various parameters, and on each of the parameter, a project is getting marks, and total marks in this parameters are 100, out of which you need to score at least 60 to become eligible under this scheme. We'll briefly look at the parameters later in this slide. Coming to the grant, how it is calculated, it is 35% on the storage and transportation infrastructure and 50% on the value addition or processing infrastructure if the project is coming up in the general area. Whereas it will be at the rate of 50% on the storage and transportation infrastructure and 75% on the processing and value addition infrastructure if the project is coming up in hilly or difficult area. Talking about what components are eligible under this scheme, first is farm level infrastructure. Farm level infrastructure refers to some kind of storage infrastructure. It could be your cold storage, blast freezer with some kind of value addition facilities like food processing. It could be IQF or vacuum freeze drying or any kind of processing which you want to have integrated with your cold chain facility. This infrastructure should come up in the catchment area of the production crop. The second component is distribution hub. This distribution hub could be your, again, cold storage along with some kind of value addition facility, but this is something which is near to your market or distribution place. The third component is refrigerated vans, which is for transportation of goods from the farm level to the market level or from the farm level infrastructure to the distribution hub. So to become eligible under this scheme, you need to propose at least 2 components from these: farm level, distribution hub, and refrigerated vans. The fourth component under this scheme is irrigation facility. This facility can be taken up independently, irrespective of the farm level infrastructure, distribution hub, or refrigerated vans. And as mentioned earlier, the maximum grant under this scheme is 10 crores. So talking about the criteria and the parameters on which the project is given score, basically we can see there are like raw material availability, you are getting some marks. If your project is the status of the land in your project, if you have ready possession of the land, you are getting more marks. If you have experience in food processing, you are getting more marks. Similarly, there are various parameters on which marks are given. You need to score at least 60 to become eligible under this scheme. Coming to the next scheme, which is from Ministry of Agriculture through National Horticulture Board. This is for independent cold storage also. Unlike in the cold chain infrastructure, it has to be an integrated cold storage facility along with some kind of food processing, refrigerated vans, and distribution hub. Here you can take up an independent cold storage. The basic eligibility criteria under this scheme is that it should be a multi-chamber cold storage, and the capacity of the cold storage should be at least 5,000 metric tons if it is coming up in general area. Whereas if it is coming up in northeast or any hilly area, it can be more than 1,000 metric ton. So here the maximum grant we can get is 7.5 crores, and the subsidy is calculated at the rate of 35% in general areas and 50% in northeast and difficult areas. The components which are eligible under this scheme are cold storage type 1 and type 2. Type 1 and type 2 are basically dependent on the size and the number of the chambers. Here you can also take subsidy for controlled atmosphere cold storages along with some technology upgradation or modernization along with some kind of material handling equipments as well. Next scheme is from Small Farmer Agribusiness Consortium. This is basically not the subsidy, but this is interest-free loan for your project. So any kind of food processing or agri-related project is eligible under this scheme. The basic criteria is that the project should be with respect to the agriculture or food processing. The project cost range could be 15 lakhs to 5 crores if it is in general area, and it can be up from 10 lakhs to 10 crores if it is in hilly or difficult area. Now, the assistance you are getting is interest-free loan, which is calculated at the rate of 26% of the capital you are introducing in your project. If it is in general area, it will be calculated at the rate of 40% if it is coming up in hilly or northeastern area. So these were these schemes from the central government. Coming to the state government, as I mentioned that under National Horticulture Board, you are eligible for subsidy if your project capacity is more than 5,000 metric ton. If the project capacity is less than 5,000 metric ton, you become eligible under National Horticulture Mission, which is a state government scheme. So, and apart from this, this particular National Horticulture Mission, each of the state government have their own industrial policy under which cold storage project is eligible for incentives. Incentives in terms of refund of GST, interest subvention, power tariff, and other operative costs, reimbursement of the operative costs. In this particular slide, we have mentioned how many projects have been approved by Ministry of Food Processing and National Horticulture Board till now. So as you can see, Ministry of Food Processing has approved 239 cold chain projects in which they have sanctioned grant of 1405 crores. 1405 crores grant has been approved. On an average, one project is entitled for, basically the project is entitled for 10 crores of grant. So on an average, each project is availing grant of 6 crores. Presently, this scheme is not on because this is something which is open only when they have availability of funds. So we are expecting that this EOI will be announced in couple of months. Coming to the National Horticulture Board cold storage projects, they have approved 1,695 projects, sanctioning a subsidy of 1,014 crores. This scheme is on throughout the year and this can be availed at present also. So this was from my side regarding the schemes and what are the benefits we can avail under the central government and the state government scheme. Thank you, sir.
We will now move to the next panelist from our panel discussion. That is Mr. Nitin Puri. He's from Yes Bank. And he's basically going to be talking about, or rather I would like him to talk about his experience on what all are the steps necessary for an entrepreneur to avail financing, since they are the ones who do the financing. It's best to hear from them as to what all are the requirements from a bank side for an entrepreneur to come in, and what all are his experiences on that front. What are the common mistakes that people make in when they put up such a kind of a facility. So over to Mr. Nitin Puri.
I think the government has come up with a wonderful range of incentives and schemes, as all of you would have observed, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat package. So while earlier on there used to be an omnibus scheme called the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana under the Ministry of Food Processing Industries, which was essentially to address supply chain investments and incentives to address those investments under this omnibus scheme. Across dairy, fishery, poultry, horticulture, spices, and of course there was some good offtake as well which happened for this scheme over the last 2 to 3 years. There are close to some 200 plus projects with an overall capital investment of close to around 3,000 crores which have been grounded. But after that the government, I think, realized that rather than having an omnibus scheme, it is important to have sector specific schemes. So now if you look carefully at the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, you will see that the specific set of initiatives for each sector. So the line ministries in the government of India, for example, within fishery, within dairy, poultry, have come up with specific announcements. So for instance, the Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund is a very, very specific scheme aimed at post-harvest investments in the dairy sector, in the poultry sector, in the meat sector, and practically everything which is post-farm handling to processing to logistics supply chain is part of this, and there is a very strong element of interest subvention which is available by way of any form of investment which is done in this sector. Similarly, there are guarantee schemes which are there in terms of credit guarantee, which have been given for specific companies, especially in the mid-market, small, medium enterprises segment. Also, you will see there is something called the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is actually a scheme targeted at the back-end interventions, initiatives, and investments in the fishery aqua value chain. So, as you would know, unlike the current focus, which is primarily on shrimps, and shrimps, of course, contributes a significant portion of our aqua exports. But beyond shrimps, there has been very little investment which has happened in the supply chain. So, getting into non-shrimp products, getting into infrastructure, getting into a very big way on organizing the domestic markets. Again, that's a very, very strong area of focus, because as we all know, in the fishery value chain and supply chain, one of the key issues is with regards to food safety, compliance, quality of infrastructure, which makes consumption as well a major area of challenge. So if all of this is plugged, the domestic market itself can become a very, very big area, wherein the sizing of the market and the opportunity for the industry itself can become significantly higher. So the ultimate endeavor here is from say $7 to $8 billion worth of export, can we double it to 15 billion? And from say $10 billion of domestic market, can we double this to 20 billion? So both put together then becomes close to a $30 billion market, which is significant in size. So there is a whole host of capital grants and incentives which have been brought under this scheme as well. Similarly, of course, in the past there have been interventions and initiatives with the Ministry of Agriculture under the MIDH, the Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture. In fact, there's a very, very good scheme for the digitization and e-commerce initiatives in the fruits and vegetable sector as well, which was announced even before the Atmanirbhar Bharat package was launched, a couple of weeks before that itself. So on the whole, if you look at the entire scheme of things, this is actually a wonderful time and place to actually invest, get a lot of significant incentives in the form of capital incentives. And of course, apart from all of these capital incentives, there is a whole host of fiscal incentives which many states do provide. So there are many proactive states, including Andhra, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Maharashtra. Of course, the PSOI scheme has been running since quite some time. So a whole host, Gujarat is another big one, where a whole host of fiscal incentives as well have been provided, which includes everything from state GST waivers to waiving off of registry charges on the land, to incentives on the electricity and power tariff, and a whole host of other incentives as well. So I think the government has very, very consciously and very, very intelligently come out with these packages. And I think the industry will stand to benefit a lot. And we see a very, very bright future for the perishable space, especially in India, with these incentives coming in and the opportunity globally and in the domestic market as well being there. Value addition being an opportunity, supply chain improvements being an opportunity. This is indeed going to be a fantastic opportunity for companies, for entrepreneurs, for MSMEs to actually expedite their plans, and the next 2 to 3 years can actually be a golden period as far as investments in the cold chain sector in India are concerned, both back-end, pre-harvest, as well as post-harvest. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin, for your insightful words and experiences about all the financing options and how what people are supposed to do. Well, now we've heard it from the on one side. Now we would like to hear this whole story from the other side, which is from someone who has actually been the recipient of such schemes, and what have been their experiences. What again, I would like to also stress upon this, that what would be the common mistakes that people make when getting such grants. What are the things that should really be looked upon? So we have Mr. Hitin Suri. Of course, we've heard his introduction. I've known him since many years. He's been a good friend as well. So Mr. Suri, welcome to the panel, and we would like to hear your views.
Thank you, Harshal. I say that this is a golden opportunity to showcase that what we have been done since last 3 decades in the cold chain supply. I would rather say into the supply chain of horticulture producers. So cut it short, what you basically want to know that how this subsidies actually help the building the nation and the infrastructure and what you called is to reduce the post harvest losses. So I can say that in 2009 we first applied to MOFPI for the our first CS storage in Delhi, NCR, which is situated in Food Park in Haryana. So at that time, the scheme was just had been announced, and we were one of the first 10 selective candidates, or you can say the selective companies who have been given the opportunity by the government to initiate that entire process. So what I want to say is that when you take as a MOFPI, as a Ministry of Food Processing process, uh, it's very well said by Yashwantji that it takes you a lot of relief in terms of making a project because the funds are in flow with your construction and your execution. So it gives you less stress on your balance sheet in forms of interest. Secondly, you are being monitored by the agency on every quarterly basis. So it gives you a lot of help in terms of execution, in terms of the reliability from the government side as well as from the vendor side, because they have to perform on time. Otherwise, there will be certain knock on the door always from the government that why there's a delay and how it's been, and you have to give a valid reason for it. Uh, in 2009, when we completed this projects in 24 months, there is a certain uh, issues normally come, which is called contingency, which normally people forego. So this is one thing I want to say to all the future entrepreneurs in this industry, that they always calculate certain amount of contingency in their project, which normally people do not do. Consultants do give them some kind of basically kind of observations that these are the certain cost which is going to be there. But normally I've seen that many of the entrepreneurs shoot the cost of project because of this non-consideration of contingency. So this is one of the very critical things which we have to understand, that there's a certain amount of contingency element has to be there in the project. Secondly, when you compare with NHB, because we were one of the first beneficiaries of the that particular scheme also, we started our CA cold store in Kashmir in 2010. So if you can say that simultaneously, I've been working on two projects, one with the NHB and other was with the MOFPI, and one is the integrated cold chain, and other one was standalone CA cold storage. So, as Yashwant have already told you that they both are into a different territory. I mean to say, different governments are taking into a different weightage to the projects. MOFPI is very much, take the project on its merits. So it's not like you put up an application and you simply get the taken as an take it as an approval. But in case of NHB, there is a lot of relief in that particular term, that you simply upload your application, and once your application is approved, so you can there's an LOI, and then you can start your project execution. And there's another advantage in terms of NHB, that once your application is uploaded, you can start your project if your bankers are ready to fund you on the basis of your goodwill. So this is a kind of advantage on NHB scheme, that you don't have to wait for the final LOI or something of that sort. That first you get the document, then only you can start the project. So this is, you can say, if you take on the accounts, they have certain benefits in MOFPI and certain in the NHB. Another thing which promoters do not understand while taking the NHB facility subsidy, that NHB give you the letter of intent, but it doesn't assure you the timely grant. So sometimes the interest cost overshoots the entire project cost to to a certain level that your project is unable to survive. So this is something has to be understood by the promoter, that if there is a delay from the from the NHB, because they do not have funds all the time, all around the year, but it's on a priority basis. Like you put up your application, then your application will be on the on the basis of the application number. And once your application, the first, like your application number is 120, so first 119 will be dispersed, and then 120 you will be on the basis of your enrollment, you will be eligible for getting your grant. So they do not deny the giving the grant, but ultimately maybe the period of getting the grant will be far more bigger, far more longer than anticipated. So in that case, banker is has given you the money, and so you have to be bear the interest cost till the time the grant is been credited into the subsidy account in the bank's account. So this is one of the two things which we have to, as an entrepreneur, have to think about, that how these two projects has to be done. The another thing which I have seen, because I'm working on the both the projects simultaneously, and I'm getting the the real time situation, that how this actually the way the how the government grants are been working. So definitely MOFPI as a policy is very good. They are very, they have institutionalized like a professional company, and they work like a very professional way. Whereas NHB is also working with the states. So definitely certain things has to be vetted at the state level when you go with the NHB. So this is also a time consuming when you go with the NHB, in case your project is bigger in size and standalone facility. So these two things has to be taken as an entrepreneur, that what is the right uh, policy is suitable to their project. So this is very important. Third is that people should not make projects, any entrepreneur, for the sake of grant. I have seen many unsuccessful ventures. I don't say NPA in the banker's language, but some unsuccessful ventures where the grants, because of the uh, quantum of grant, the project has been made. So that is the biggest, I can say, the blunder the entrepreneur do in his career, where he's just putting his money, or his stake, his own collaterals, just for the sake of grant, and because somebody in his friend or the family or get connected with some of the people in the industry, and he just put his own money because of the uh, relative amount of grant of like 50% in hilly areas or 35% in the common areas. So he should not be influenced by the grant. Where, whereas I will suggest, on the other way, that if he's related to this supply chain industry, then he should only go into this particular venture. Otherwise, he will burn his hands, because it's a very capital intensive and not so beautiful as it's look like from the other side of the river. So he should be very much integrated to the project. He should not do the project for the sake of only the funds or the scheme given by the government, but otherwise he should himself influenced by the business model. Uh, and other side of the story, which I want to say, is that when we talk about the challenges and when we talk about uh, what we have seen in Corona in last 6 to 8 months, you will see that there's a surge in prices of horticulture produce. There will be demand of relatively very high than what we have ever anticipated in the past decades. because the people now have become more habitual for the better and healthy lifestyle, because of the certain, hue and cry which has been since ages, but people have now been taking very seriously that the immunity level will be generated because of the better food or the fruit or vegetable they consume on daily basis. So cold chain is basically, I can say, is like, what we see as a notional, or you can say an invisible gain to this entire supply chain. Temperature monitoring is very critical. Many things, many producers lose their value in entire supply chain if there is no cold chain intervention. Especially when I say in vegetables, they give a dramatic improvement to the end consumer, especially in tropical climate like India. So this is basically a must for our industry, for our uh, pharmaceutical industry, must for our dairy industry, but for horticulture produce, which we are in been since last 7 decades, we have seen, though the value of the produce is very low as compared to pharma and dairy, but the end result is is excellent. It's mind blowing. So if you are into this business, I think so. The cold chain is the biggest blessing for any supply chain company who is dealing in horticulture produce, and that is basically a success to our own enterprise. That how we have made this model collectively, working with the farmers, working with the intermediaries, working with the logistics, and working with the end consumer. I mean to say end consumer, the people in the retailing as well as the people who consume the produce. So this is the entire business model, how it works. But any tolerance of temperature is give lot of advantage to the produce. It should be taken very seriously. Basically, the losses we bear in horticulture produce are invisible. Invisible in terms like if something happened to the milk during the supply chain, it is visible at the level when it's come to the plant, that what kind of thermoshocks has been given to the milk or a dairy produce. Like something has happened to the ice cream, so you immediately, once you open the cup of the ice cream, you will come to know there's a frosting over the level of the ice cream. It means there's some kind of thermoshock has been there. But in case of horticulture produce, you never come to know what kind of thermoshock it has gone through. Like for example, if an apple is on your table, it doesn't indicate that how much thermoshock the producer has gone through. But ultimately, as an entrepreneur from that industry, I can say that when we deliver the produce, our wastage level is almost 3 to 4%, which is almost 10% of the industry average. Whereas industry loses 30 to 40%, Suri Agro loses only 3 to 4%. So that is the biggest monetary benefit into being into this business, that where we are making money. We are not making money in the selling of apples. Basically, we are making money in reduction of our wastage in our supply chain because of proper monitoring of temperature during the entire process from harvest to delivery to the consumer. So this is what is very important to learn, that how exactly the cold chain is giving you the hidden profits. So this is my experience into this business, and open to all the questions coming from the audience, that how exactly this model works and how this actually been benefited to our company. And another thing which is not only taken as Suri Agro as a role model or a success story, I can give you the very small nationwide example of grapes. Being India as one of the leaders in export industry today, we are exporting roughly 7,000 to 8,000 containers a year to Europe and Middle East and the other parts of the world. Now we are also exporting to Canada. So this is happened because only of the relative use of the cold chain. Otherwise, our grapes can't even carry to from Maharashtra to somewhere in the parts of Jammu and Kashmir. So being carrying, being harvesting at temperature of 35 degrees and taking the grapes backward to the colder climate of Kashmir, where the temperature is 0 degree. So grapes should be delivered in a very fine position because they are going towards the cooler climate. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't deliver in a very good quality. But the same grapes can go to Canada for traveling for 40 days. And while you open your box in Canada of Indian grapes, it is as good as been harvested in the orchard itself. So how this has been happening? This is happening because of only the cold chain. Instead, I can say a better word for the cold chain, it's a value chain. Basically, it's a value of the produce which is be retained for the period of time, which is invisible in terms of the quality and the taste, which matters most to the consumer. So this is something very important, I think. So we should learn that there are many hidden advantages of the cold chain, which carries a lot of value to the produce, and especially it do wonders in the horticulture if you are related to that particular segment of produce. Otherwise, I would say the entrepreneurs should enter into this business. Especially the new generation is very energetic. They know a lot of better logics to venture what to do and why not to do, and what to do and why it to be done. So they have a lot of strong arguments during their own um, curriculum of at this particular age of digital marketing and the digital innovations of developing a new market strategies like e-commerce and everything. So this is what I say, that people should venture into this industry. They are very much welcome, but if they are related to the produce or they want to be get into the business seriously, then only there's a value and the worth of venturing into this entire supply chain of the horticulture produce. So I think this is the best business my parents have been given to me in legacy, or you can say I'm very fortunate that I've been entered into this business, because this is a business where you can never see the recession in your entire life. So best thing of this business is that this business is recession free, because people consume the produce every day. It is not a piece of certain you can say a technology like a computer or a television or kind of air condition which you buy for the another 3 4 years and 5 years, and you don't have to buy another till it gets upgrade into the latest model. Whereas in our industry, the consumption of the fresh produce is on regular basis, and our mother earth only produces the fresh horticulture produce for 11 months for this all the human population or the human race on the planet. So there is a deficiency of 1 month. So somewhere uh, in the globe, people do not have to eat for one time in a day. So this is very important thing which is blessing to the cold chain, that due to this cold chain only the reduction in losses can be happen, and the person who is not able to get the food is getting his meal because of this this control of temperature. So this is, I want to say, it's a wonderful industry. People should understand and then only venture into it, not for the sake of grant, but the sake of passion for this industry. Then only they should enter it. And I can say you that this is the wonderful industry itself. Uh, m- m- I'm the third generation into this business, and eventually, by blessing of the God, now the fourth generation is also into this industry of our family, and they are doing well. So, by here, I am closing my remarks, and hopefully, I've given you the inside story of this industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suri. That was an excellent talk, and I must say that you really did not mince any words in trying to tell people what the reality is and what the ground situation is. It's so good that we are lucky here to hear from someone who has uh, ground level experience and who is himself handling so much of food products, and they have their own brand as well. So they're doing a lot of work, and it's great to hear from you. Sir, there are a few things that you said which were very important. One, of course, was that nobody should do a project only for the grant. I think this is a tremendous takeaway from this. You have to do a project for the business, not for the grant. Lessening of losses is amongst the key takeaways for this, that where you earn is in reducing of the loss. And that's very important, especially if you are doing an end-to-end business. If you are buying the produce, processing it, storing it, and selling it, if that is your business, definitely you have a tremendous benefit in the loss. I have a small question for any of the panelists. Typically, what is an ROI for a cold chain project? Maybe since Yashwant is a CA and he's done a lot of work on this, what would you say is a CA, is an ROI for any cold chain project with subsidy and without subsidy? So how the subsidy helps in generating? Maybe after Yashwant, Mr. Suri can also add on. Yashwant, can you?
So in the projects which we have proposed, so we have seen that on an average rate of return in the investment is around 20 to 22%, what we see in the cold chain projects. But it varies depending on what type of cold storage we have and what type of produce you are targeting. See, like for example, in Nagpur, if we see, the majority of the crops are spices and the pulses, where the rental charges is not much. It could be like somewhere between 600 to 700 rupees ton. So here we are seeing an return of around 20 to 22%, which is normal.
Okay. Mr. Suri, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, basically, if you go into the history of this cold storage industry, it is more of the capitalist industry. If you see almost 10 to 15 years back, that all the cold storages are being built by capitalists. They are not into the industry. They are nothing to related with the produce. They are not bothered what is the producers coming in, what producers is going out. They are only mainly the people who are putting their money as a capital and getting the rental as an income, as a main income to the to their project. So definitely, I can say that India has more than 8,000 cold storages and successfully running. So out of 8,000, I think so still 6,000 cold storages are being, or 6,500 are still being running by the capitalist. So hardly 10,000 or something more is being the people who are related to the industry. So definitely, it's a very fair business for getting the returns on the business. But now that the success of what I said before, also the like for example of spices, what I can take an example, like when the spices are being uh, uh, I can give you the example of red chilies. When the red chilies in Guntur has been harvested, uh, the prices go to a level where there's nobody can even like to buy the produce. So that kind of glut is been taken by the cold chain. So that standalone facilities in Guntur or in that particular area, which has been uh, generated in last 10 years, is such a tremendous that now all the red chilies produced in within that vicinity is been stored at Guntur itself. Initially, it was been that those red chilies are been traveled to the other parts of the country where they are being consumed. So what I want to say by this, that this cold chain is actually not only giving the help to the producer, but giving the help to the all the intermediaries or the consumer also, that today we are without any fluctuation getting the red chili around the year because of that infrastructure which has been generated at Guntur level. And I don't think so those cold storages which are so massive, so such a big in size, each cold storage is more than 10,000 metric tons. So those facilities are not made for the purpose of just to make a glut usage of glut, but actually the amount of money and the amount of profit is such a high that you nobody can anticipate that why without even taking any grant into it, they still made such a big facilities because the profit level is very lucrative and very higher on the other side because of the supply chain, con- continuous supply chain to be maintained for the round the year consumption. So this is very important. And another thing is you can take same example for uh, apples, which is we are very much into that business in Kashmir. More than 30 CS storage has been made. Each CS storage project is roughly 32 crores minimum, and that 32 crores, the recovery of that amount can happen in in just 3 to 5 years if we are blessed with the good crop. So then in that case, I will say the return on investment is far more better than any if I put money in any other market or in any other uh, instrument where I will get a rate of interest of 6 to 12% only, like in mutual funds or somewhere. So in that particular case, this is a industry which is do the best, but only thing is that we have to be right in our investment. Like you can burn your hands if you buy the shares of some company, uh, of, of that company, you do not know the background of the promoters or background of that company, what the company is going to invest in future. So there are the good examples, there are going to be the I can say wise examples which are not so good. But ultimately, the our industry is where you can make a wisely a very fair return depends upon the volume and the value of the produce you store in. So, in terms of percentage, if somebody like to understand, then I'm not a chartered accountant who can give you the percentage of the return. But ultimately, it all depends where you invest your money and how you make your project in terms of technology. Whereas I think so, very good. Uh, Harshal is very good into it that he can give you the best of the plant design because there are certain costs to the project also, like how energy efficient your project is, whether you are using solar panels or not, whether you are using what class of motors you are been using, so what class of insulation you are been using. So these are the very important aspects which actually give you the capex today, but later on in years to come, like Harshal well said in his introduction, that there is a span of 15 to 20 years of each facility, which you have to take in count initially. That what exactly you are going to spend in another after 5 to 10 years, because if you compromise on the project today, then you have to repent it later. So this is a very important that you should get a right people to build your facility to get the right ROI on your project because that will affect in future. So you have to be very wise in choosing the technology today, and you should not go by the uh, normal thumb rule kind of cut paste model. and you should be very subjective and innovative in the way you make your project, which is directly proportionate to your ROI. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Again, very well said. It's very important to bring in the right people in any project. And I would say not just bring in the right people at the stage, even bringing them at the right time into the project. Many times people come to consultants at a very late stage. After the entire scheme has been given, it has been approved, and then you get someone to design that scheme. I think it's definitely more logical if any designer or consultant is involved at the initial stages of the project, where the conceptualization stage, where significant differences can be made in the layout, in so many other things that are there in any project. Now there are sustainable technologies, green technologies, so many things that can be put as value addition right at the beginning of any project. So while I think this discussion can continue forever, I'm not sure if we have enough time. Maybe now we can move towards the question answers, and then answer a few questions that the audience may have. Nisha, would you like to take over now?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all the panelists for this wonderful session. I would now request all the participants to please click on the link which is appearing in the chat box. It will guide you onto the next platform. We look forward to meeting you there to answer your questions. Thank you.